Hi, my name is Natalie Matthews, and today I'm presenting Why Does God Allow Suffering? A research paper. With this paper, I really just addressed a question that a lot of people have, especially a lot of people that don't necessarily believe in Jesus and that he rose from the dead and that he's our Savior. But even like Christians ask this question too, and it's why does God allow suffering? If he's so powerful, if he's in control, does he cause suffering? If he doesn't, why does he allow it? And I really broke it down into three major things: the Old Testament, New Testament, and today's time. So in in the Old Testament, really, I looked at Job and the prophets. And in the book of Job, you see a man that was extremely righteous and faithful to God. And Satan goes to God saying, this man would not follow you anymore. He would not believe in you. He wouldn't be close to you anymore if you took everything away from him. Like, he only follows you because of that. He only believes in you because of that. And God's like, well, you could test him, just don't kill him, and we'll see. And so Satan, of course, goes and takes everything away from this poor man. And he lost his children, his wife, his wealth, and the community. And he endured so much suffering. And God just allowed it to happen. He didn't necessarily cause it, but he did allow it. And in the end, though, through it all, Job became humble, and he developed a more intimate relationship with God, and he was actually blessed 10 times more in the end than what he started out with. And he endured so much, but I don't think it was just for nothing. I think God had a purpose and plan for it. And because of this, we could really look at how through pain and suffering, Job was able to have a more intimate relationship with people around him and with God. And I think that his story probably impacted the people around him. You see, he had 3 friends come and watch him in silence for a couple of days, and then they finally broke their silence and said, well, this is because of sin in your family, sin in your life, and stuff that you must have done. It must be your fault. But it wasn't. He was a righteous man. And then Elihu came, and he basically is like, hey, he guided him kind of back towards God in his grieving time. So I think it's a beautiful story. But I also looked at the other prophets, and if you look at prophets in the Old Testament, they don't really want to be prophets, because the life of a prophet is not easy. It's not a fun thing to be a prophet. Most of the time, prophets have to endure great amount of suffering and pain. It's not something that people are like, oh yeah, prophet, awesome. It's more of oh no, okay, I'm going to obey God and what he wants to do. I'm going to do what he wants me to do and follow him and be obedient. And if you look at Ezekiel, he looked crazy to a lot of people, and he probably was labeled that. And it wasn't easy doing these tasks for God. Like for Ezekiel, he had to eat food cooked off of poop. So it's not something somebody necessarily wants to do. And then if you also look at the New Testament, you look at Jesus and how he set such an example for suffering. He's literally called the suffering servant. So he died and he suffered for us, and he went through all that pain and torture so that way we could be saved and we could be redeemed. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful thing of what he's done. But God loved us so much that he would send his only son. And so I think that's a wonderful thing that he was able to do. And it's sad, but God knew it needed to be done. And so I took a really good close look at Jesus and his example that he put for suffering. And then I looked at also, Christ said that we'd have to take up our cross daily and follow him. And taking up your cross isn't something easy. It's heavy. It's going to hurt. You're probably going to be put down by the people that see you carrying that cross. And it's not an easy thing when people are constantly bombarding you and constantly mocking you. And so I took a look into the Christians in the early New Testament and the time of when Rome was persecuting Christians, and I looked at that. And then I also looked at today's times, and I looked at politics, war, and disease, and how all those things are ravaging our world today. And I mean, they've kind of ravaged our time throughout the history of the planet, but I feel like it's coming to like a climax, and diseases are going across countries with, like in the impoverished areas, and people are suffering greatly from that, and politics are dividing nations, and then wars are just ravaging them, and poor people are dying because of it, poor innocent people. And so a lot of people look at these like suffering people, but honestly we could see the blessings through it all. I concluded my paper with the blessings that God has for us in our lives, and the blessings that God has put upon the prophets, Job, Jesus, us, early Christians. Like, he still blesses us today. I think he allows us to go through things for a reason, and because of that reason, like, we are humiliated, become closer to him. We are able to impact others people in what they're going through and help them in their walk. Like, I don't think anything happens by accident. I think everything has a purpose. I think suffering has a purpose in our lives, and it helps develop us to be better people and better Christians. We just need to know that we are like, God really, he loves us, and that he knows the plans that he has for us, and he plans for us to prosper. So he is going to be keeping us safe, and we must trust him in this process of suffering and pain. So that is my presentation of why does God allow suffering. I hope you enjoy.